So there's a book out, or a new book coming out, by author Michael Wolff about the Trump White House. Now, Wolff, in writing this book, apparently spoke to insiders, staffers, and had a lot of interviews with the president himself. He actually says it was about hundreds of interviews over the course of several months. So now, many of the quotes within this book are from Donald Trump's former chief strategist, Steve Bannon, who apparently is no longer on friendly terms with the president. Now, one of some of the excerpts that I'm actually going to read to you, and this was compiled from The Guardian, who actually has a copy of the book, and they put out this article earlier, is going to talk about the meeting between Donald Jr. and the Russians at Trump Tower, and this is Steve Bannon's take on this. So, get a load of this. Now, the meeting was revealed by the New York Times in July of last year, prompting Trump Jr. to say that no consequential material was produced. Soon after, Wolff writes, Bannon remarked mockingly, quote, "The three senior guys in the campaign thought it was a good idea to meet with a foreign government inside Trump Tower in the conference room on the 25th floor. With no lawyers. They didn't have any lawyers. Even if you thought this was not treasonous or unpatriotic or bad shit, and I happen to think it's all of that, you should have called the FBI immediately." Now, Bannon went on, Wolff writes, to say that if any such meeting had to take place, it should have been set up in a Holiday Inn in Manchester, New Hampshire, with your lawyers who meet with these people. Any information, he said, could then be dumped down to Breitbart or something like that, or maybe some other more legitimate publication. Bannon added, "You never see it, you never know it, because you don't need to, but that's the brain trust they had." Well, that's to say the brain trust was lacking in one very important thing. Brain. There's no brain. When it comes to Donald Jr., however, that tends to be expected. But I like how he's like, "Hey, man, you could get that information. You could dump it down Breitbart." Yeah, okay, you could, or put it to a more legitimate publication. Now, it almost sounds like he was admitting that, Breitbart's not so much of a legitimate publication, but you could still give it to us, and we would definitely run it. Yeah, well, no kidding. Of course he would. Now, there's more. Bannon has criticized Trump's decision to fire Comey. In Wolff's book, he suggests the White House hopes for a quick end to the Mueller investigation are gravely misplaced. Now, it's funny. I actually read an article that pointed out that Trump's lawyers, Ty Cobb especially, are basically lying to him. "Oh, no, it'll be okay, Donnie. The investigation will be over very, very soon." Oh, when will it be over, Mr. Cobb? It should be over by Thanksgiving. It should be over by Christmas. And those same people, those insiders in the White House are like, he's not going to be duped for that much longer, right? Eventually, he's going to catch on to this. It's been quite a while, nearly a year since the investigation launched from Mueller. There's been several indictments, things like that. And yet, somehow, for some reason, Trump has still not caught on to the fact that we're going to be seeing the Mueller investigation stretch into 2018 for quite some time. Maybe mid-2018, maybe most of the year. Who knows how long it's going to take? It's not going to end soon. So I think it's really, really funny how they point that out. Now, Trump's lawyers are afraid that if Trump knew the truth, or when he finds out the truth, he's going to fire Mueller and actually make things exponentially worse. Now, Bannon continues, quote, "You realize where this is going. This is all about money laundering. Mueller chose senior prosecutor Andrew Weissman first, and he is a money laundering guy. Their path to fucking Trump goes right through Paul Manafort, Don Jr., and Jared Kushner. It's as plain as a hair on your face." And of course he would know. But look, this is what I've been saying for quite some time. As soon as this became about money laundering and financial crimes, then this has actually became a real investigation that could have huge implications, and actually might, if it exists, lead to finding a financial deal between Donald Trump's business empire and the corrupt Russian government. Now, already federal prosecutors had subpoenaed records from Deutsche Bank. That's the German financial institution that has lent hundreds of millions of dollars to the Kushner family empire. Now, Bannon continues. So it goes through Deutsche Bank and the Kushner shit. The Kushner shit is greasy. They're going to go right through that, and I'm sorry. I was about to make a comment about how Bannon would definitely know Greece as well. But he says, quote, they're going to roll those two guys up and say, play me or trade me. So Manafort, Kushner, and Don Jr., those are the ways that they're going to get Trump. Well, they already have Manafort, and now they're looking into Kushner. And Don Jr. has already gotten himself into trouble for, the meeting that he had with the Russian lawyer. He basically admits it. Yeah, this was collusion. I was actually attempting to collude with the, to get information about Hillary Clinton, to get dirt on her from a foreign governmental source. Again, this is high up information, and this was what the email said from Goldstone. This is high up information that from the Russian government about Hillary Clinton. We would like to give you that information. And Donald Jr. said, hey, if it is what I think it is, then I love it, especially later in the summer. And what happened later in the summer? Well, those emails came out. So, the DNC emails. Not saying anything. I'm just saying. So, these guys, they're not very smart people, right? Which aligns to what Bannon is going to say next. Quote, they're sitting on a beach trying to stop a Category 5. Saying all these Trump people, they're sitting there and they're like, no, nothing bad's going to happen. What are you talking about? And Mueller is the hurricane. Oh, boy. So, and look, I do have to point out that Bannon absolutely hates Kushner and Ivanka Trump. So let's be clear on that, right? The Guardian notes that the rancor between Bannon and what he calls Javanka, Kushner and his wife Ivanka Trump, is a recurring theme of the book. Kushner and Ivanka are Jewish. Henry Kissinger, the former Secretary of State, is quoted as saying, quote, it is a war between the Jews and the non-Jews. So that kind of tells you a lot about Bannon's motivations for speaking out. Bannon says he hates the establishment, but it's not the same reason that a lot of people on the left hate the establishment. He hates the establishment because he believes that it's run by the Jews, right? This is deeply held anti-Semitism, and that anti-Semitism is rooted in the alt-right. Now, I actually don't like Kushner because he's a terrible person. He's a slumlord and somebody who isn't very bright, okay? Bannon despises him and Ivanka Trump because they're Jews and actually opposes... And look, Kushner has also opposed some elements of the alt-right. I think they're both bad guys, but Bannon, in my opinion, is way, way worse. He's way more skeevy of a person. But now there is one more quote, actually, I said that was more interesting, that I think is more interesting. Wolff writes that Thomas Barat Jr., a billionaire who was one of the president's oldest associates, allegedly told a friend, quote, he is not only crazy, he's stupid. Him referring, of course, to Donald Trump, but to be fair, we already know. It didn't take long to figure all that out. So, look, so this book comes out, this excerpt comes out. The book is actually going to come out next week. And a lot of the stuff, this is only some of the stuff that Bannon was saying, and he goes on and on against the Trump administration. Now, what's interesting is Trump now comes out with his own response to this soon after all this came out, and I'm going to read that for you. This is in the New York Times. President Trump essentially excommunicated his one-time chief strategist, Steve Bannon, on Wednesday, dismissing him as an aide who had, quote, very little to do with our historic victory, and has now, quote, lost his mind. In a written statement, Mr. Trump fired back at Bannon, who had made caustic comments about the president and his family, to the author of a new tell-all book about the Trump White House. While Mr. Bannon had been pushed out of the White House last summer, he had remained in touch with Mr. Trump, but the two now appear to have reached a breaking point. Oh, this is great. Here's his quote. Steve Bannon has nothing to do with me or my presidency. When he was fired, he not only lost his job, he lost his mind. Mr. Trump berated Bannon for the loss of a Senate seat in Alabama and said the former advisor did not represent him but is only in it for himself. Steve pretends to be at war with the media, which he calls the opposition party, yet he spent his time at the White House leaking false information to the media to make himself seem far more important than he was. It is the only thing he does well. Steve was rarely in a one-on-one meeting with me and only pretends to have influence to have had influence to fool a few people with no access and no clue, whom he helped write phony books. Ouch. So, look, man, that statement is not going to go unanswered. This is the time that we were kind of hoping for, that we were kind of waiting for. The Trump White House and Trump himself is now at war with Breitbart. Hey everybody, thanks for watching this video. If you want to see more like this, please hit the subscribe button below. And if you want to support truly independent progressive media, please consider becoming a patron at patreon.com/TYTNation.